We've all heard about the tech industry's gender gap, right? It's a huge, persistent problem. But what if the issue doesn't actually start in the C-suite or the coding bootcamp? What if the seeds of this problem are planted way earlier, in the very universities that are supposed to be the pipeline for the tech world? Today, we're digging into a study that asks that exact question. Now, just to set the stage, check out this quote. This is something one of the researchers behind the study actually experienced. It's this really jarring personal moment where senior faculty were openly worrying about how a woman becoming a parent would hurt her career. And that experience, well, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are these just isolated incidents, or is the academic world itself actually contributing to the gender gap we see all over the tech industry?
So to get to the bottom of this, we're going to look at a fascinating editorial from the Journal of the Association for Information Systems. The authors really wanted to get past the stories and find some cold, hard evidence.
So they launched this big study to find what they called a ground truth. What's really going on with gender equity in the field of information systems. The goal was simple: figure out if men and women were having fundamentally different experiences in their academic careers.
Okay, so how do you even go about finding that ground truth? Well, their approach was pretty direct, but also really thorough.
They surveyed 279 members of the Association for Information Systems, or AIS for short. And this wasn't just a small localized group. They got responses from people at all levels, from all over the world, to get a real snapshot of the entire field. And what they found, well, it was pretty significant. The data pointed to some clear statistical differences in the day-to-day professional lives of men and women. Okay, so the first big takeaway, it all boils down to something super fundamental: job satisfaction. And we're not talking about a hunch here. The data showed that women in the field were statistically, measurably less satisfied with their jobs than the men were. But how do you even measure that? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. One of the ways they measured it was by asking a simple question: would you recommend your job to a good friend? On a 5-point scale, men rated it a 4.05 on average, which is pretty good. But women? They averaged just 3.62. They were just way less likely to say yes.
And this wasn't just about feelings or perceptions, This difference in experience showed up in one of the most visible parts of an academic career: getting awards and professional recognition.
All right, let's take a look at the AIS Fellow Awards. This is like the Hall of Fame for this field. And just look at this chart. The difference is, wow, over almost 20 years, it's just stark. I mean, in some of those years, not a single woman got this award. 0. And it's not a one-off. Here are the Leo Awards, another huge career honor. And you see that? It's the exact same story. When you see these two charts side by side, it becomes really clear this isn't random. It's a pattern. Now you might be thinking, well, maybe that's just an old school problem. But check this out. Even with early career awards, the ones for the rising stars in the field, the gap is still there. This tells us this isn't some historical leftover. It's happening right now. And the hard numbers on the awards, they totally lined up with how people felt. The survey found that women perceived a whole lot more unfair treatment at their universities than their male colleagues did. So let's just pull this all together. The study confirmed real, statistically significant differences pretty much everywhere they looked. We're talking lower job satisfaction for women, feeling less valued by their universities, perceiving more inequity, and feeling like they had fewer shots at leadership roles. The data was just undeniable. But here's the really important part. The researchers didn't just drop all this bad news and then walk away. They used everything they found to build a detailed agenda for change. See, this wasn't about pointing fingers. It was about creating a practical blueprint, a real plan that institutions, professional groups, and even individuals could use to build a much fairer environment for everyone. So for the universities themselves, the plan is pretty clear. You've got the must-haves, like strong anti-harassment policies and totally transparent promotion rules. But then there's the proactive stuff, right? Like offering leadership training to all faculty, not just a chosen few, and setting up formal mentoring to make sure new folks feel supported from day one. And for the big professional associations, it's all about community and opening doors. Things like creating mentor networks and making sure panels aren't all men are key. But also the really practical stuff that makes a huge difference, like offering childcare at conferences. Oh, and making that whole awards process, which we just saw was so lopsided, way more transparent. And finally, it comes down to us, to individuals. The study made a direct appeal for people, especially men in the field, to step up. Refuse to be on an all-male panel.
respect that your colleagues have lives outside of work, and really importantly, actively nominate deserving women for those awards and leadership spots.
And you can see how this isn't just a roadmap for one academic field, right? This is a blueprint for basically any organization anywhere that wants to get serious about building a workplace that's actually fair for everyone.
Because at the end of the day, this whole conversation about equity isn't just about fairness, it's about excellence. It's about making sure an organization, whether it's a university or a tech company, is actually using all the talent it has available. So the real question this leaves us with is, what's one action you can take to help make that happen?